Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Music Nook, where we are going to be discussing Kanye West's, I believe, 10th studio album, Donda. This album was released during one of the most controversial parts of Kanye West's career, as well as preceding an even more controversial part. And it's also the second of Kanye West's two overtly religious albums, the other one being Jesus is King. It was released in August of 2021 after numerous delays and is named after his late mother, who died years prior after a botched surgery. So, a lot to talk about with this album, with the controversy, with its namesake, with the actual content of the album. Starting off with the controversy, though, since I know that that's going to be on a lot of people's minds. I believe this album was released before the anti-Semitic remarks, but it was
As far
released
as I'm
after. Sorry?
as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I believe so too. But it was released after Kanye West's very public divorce with Kim Kardashian, as well as his what many people would consider to be unacceptable behavior during the course of that divorce and the way that it played out. Kanye West has been identified at this point by numerous psychologists as having narcissistic personality disorder, which is a mental disorder that causes you to lose your ability to feel emotional empathy, which can precipitate a lot of toxic behaviors. And we saw Kanye West engaging in the narcissistic dynamic with his ex Kim Kardashian, with the devaluing and disengagement and subsequent hoovering, the sense of entitlement, the lack of boundary recognition, um, the absence of emotional empathy, obviously, that he demonstrated towards her, and in a way towards his kids by making the divorce with their mother such a public spectacle and such an embarrassing spectacle. And Kanye West continues that behavior actually onto this album, with many lyrics continuing to discuss the Kim Kardashian situation and not doing so in the most respectful or grounded way. However, with all of that said, I personally, being an expert in separating the art from the artist, I'm a huge fan of Marilyn Manson, who has done some pretty terrible things. I'm a huge fan of several different rappers who are known to have committed some pretty heinous crimes. And frankly, not a friend, I'm a fan of Kanye West, despite the egregious behavior that he has engaged in over the years. We're not going to talk too much about the anti-Semitic remarks this episode, since I feel like that is a situation that's a little bit more attached to his newest studio album, Vultures, the collaboration with Ty Dolla $ign. But we are definitely going to talk a little bit. I don't want to get too into the weeds as far as Kanye West's mental health goes, but because it's going to end up being relevant to some of the lyrics, we are going to touch on his narcissism in this episode since it is relevant to the album that we're talking about. Um, but anyway, like I was saying, I am a fan of Kanye West and I am a fan of this album, and I actually, despite some of the controversy surrounding this album and some of the behavior demonstrated on this album, I would consider this to be my favorite Kanye West album. Now, I do have to follow that up by saying, as a 23-year-old who is not necessarily a huge hip hop nerd, have only listened to new Kanye. I think I listened to 808s and Heartbreak all the way through once, and as far as multiple, listens over the course of months and years goes, I've only really indulged My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Later. I have not, I don't think I've listened to any of the original trilogy, all the way through. And like I said, I've only listened to 808s and Heartbreak only once. I'm only a real fan of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and later Kanye West. But even with that said, of all of Kanye West's newer albums, his 2010 and later albums, Donda is my favorite album from Kanye West. It was released during a pretty difficult time in my life, and I am going to end up probably touching a little bit on my own mental health as well because I have some pretty interesting stories to tell about how I ended up interpreting and relating to this album in the wake of a traumatic brain injury that I suffered and poor mental health that followed. Not only was it released during a difficult time in my life, um, and which obviously, as a pretty spiritual person, its religious themes, though I'm not overtly religious or overtly Christian, did speak to me. I'm not only a fan of the album because of that, I'm also a fan of the album because of its production. I think Kanye West, say what you want about his lyricism, has only gotten better at production with each subsequent album. You could make an argument that Yeezus was not quite as well produced as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but besides that one arguable hiccup, Kanye West has, in my opinion, done better with production on each subsequent album for his entire career, especially My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and later. Or I guess if you're going to argue that Yeezus wasn't as good as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, The Life of Pablo and later. And yes, I think even the sparse minimalist production of Jesus is King um, is in a lot of ways better than the industrial and pseudo experimental vibe of Yeezus. Actually, you know what? I have to take
You
that
like
statement back
this
because I
is
just I just completely forgot about Jesus King. Jesus is King is not better produced than The Life of Pablo, and it's actually not better produced than Yeezus. And it's not better produced than My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So I actually can't really say that. I can't really make that much of a blanket statement as far as Kanye West production goes. But what I will say is that Donda and Vultures are among the best produced albums of his career. His two most recent albums are among the best produced albums of his career.
you forgot
Obviously,
Donda
Donda and
too.
Vultures includes Donda. So I really, really love
You
the
forgot Donda
production.
too.
Donda 2 is actually not considered an official studio album by Kanye West. It is considered a mixtape, I believe. We can look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure Donda
Nice.
2 is a demo
You,
album by the American rapper Kanye West. So yeah, it's not considered to be
all
as
right then.
a part of his official discography, nor should it be. That would be awful if it was. But yeah, Donda, because of its religious themes that I related to as a spiritual person who was having a difficult time at the time of its release, and as a result of its incredible production, I really, really love this album, and it's overall my favorite Kanye West album.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
I wanted to say about the controversy in regards to separating the art from the artist. I respect people if they, uh, in the case of Kanye, just aren't able to separate the art from the artist. And for whatever lines that they personally have, there are some artists that, like, my lines are pretty arbitrary. There are some artists who, like, have done things that I just can't really enjoy their music anymore because of knowing it. But there's other artists that have done things that are like comparable, but I still can enjoy their music just as much. And for me personally, just I'm able to still enjoy Kanye's music, but uh, I hope that uh, even if you are not a fan of Kanye, you can still enjoy this episode and this podcast in general as much as possible. But yeah, I was going to say you kind of saying that you saying for a moment that Jesus is King was better than Jesus threw me for a loop as someone who is kind of a Jesus is
Wh-
King defender. I think that album is pretty good.
Yeah, Jesus is King. You can make an argument that Jesus is King is better than Jesus. The main reason I backtracked was because I had forgotten about the life of Pablo. I don't think Jesus is King is. You can make an argument it's better produced than Jesus, but I don't think you can make much of an argument that it's better produced than the life of Pablo. The life of Pablo has some really, really incredible production on it. Um,
Yeah,
So you can't
I was
quite
going
say
to
that
say as
each
well. Go
subsequent
ahead.
album was you can't quite say that each subsequent album was better than the last because I do think that there was a slight step down from the life of Pablo to Jesus is King, but he did definitely recover going from Jesus is King into Donda, in my opinion, and
Mhm,
continued that trend with Donda into Vultures. But let's go ahead
mhm.
and get jump into the track list here because we have a long 27 track list. I'm going to do my best to only spend
Wait,
a minute or
27?
two
I
on
didn't
each
do
song.
the list.
Sorry.
Wait, is it 27 tracks?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right then.
Um, so I'm gonna do my best to only spend a minute or two on each track, even though a lot of these tracks I could go a little bit on about. First off, Donda Chant. Um, I kind of put up with this. Uh, I kind of put up with this intro more than enjoy it. It's a little bit on the pretentious side for me, just chanting Donda, Donda over and over again. But it does sound nice. It is pleasant to the ear. Uh, at least the Donda chant isn't like grating or annoying. Like I said, it's a little bit pretentious. Doesn't seem to me to really mean much or evoke much or invoke much. But it
Sweet
at least sounds all
a
right
part of
as a
the
beginning
project.
to the album.
I respect it as being part of the project and important to Kanye, I guess. But when I listen to this album, I usually skip it. Jail, however, Jail is really good.
Jail. Yeah, Jail is definitely one of the highlights on the album. Um,
One of the most memorable.
I do wish it was better mixed. I wished that those chorus vocals were like way fucking louder.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, Kanye West kind of starts off the album by doing what he's going to do for the rest of the album, which is mixing religious themes with some of his own personal, typical Kanye West themes. He's just taking snapshots from his life and putting it into the music, but he's mixing it with again, some religious themes. As well as this commentary on I'll Be Honest, We All Lies, which I'm not sure um, is. Yeah, it does, according to Genius, seem to be um, a commentary on the human condition rather than identifying a specific group of people as being liars. Overall, for me, great intro. Really, it's an appropriate intro for the album thematically, and it's well produced. I do have a small complaint that it could be mixed better, but ultimately, it's a pretty good song.
A great feature. The features on this album in general
Oh
do a really
yeah,
good job. But Jay-Z's verse is one of the highlights for me.
yeah. Jay Z's verse had to grow on me a little bit, but once it did grow on me, I realized, especially remembering that Jay Z freestyles most of his raps. Yeah, it's a pretty good feature.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
God breathed. I know God breathed on this. I know God breathed on this. I know He got His hands on this. I know we got a chance
I
on
was going to
this.
say, this is Donda might be it's up there with one of my favorite Kanye albums for sure. It might be my new favorite. Um, but that comes with the stipulation that uh, Life of Pablo and count Kids See Ghosts. I guess Kids See Ghosts. I are the two. Those two are probably the ones I'm most familiar with in his entire catalog. Um, I have listened to College Dropout and Late Registration, but um, The Life of Pablo and Kids See Ghosts are the ones I've returned to the most. But there's just something about the vibe of this album and the production of it, the character, something about just the character of the album. It feels very of the moment with the features and everything. Um,
Hmm.
there's something that uh, really sticks with me about this album and stands out. I didn't really I I didn't really know what to expect going in because I'd heard mixed things about the album quality wise, but I really don't understand the complaints as much anymore because I'm like, with Kanye, it's oftentimes something weird, and it like the weirdest thing about this album is probably the length. Uh, and there is like a lot of experimental other elements to it, but um, I think that the it justifies its length in my opinion, which is
Oh yeah. You still there?
like, oh yeah, I'm still here. Did you?
Yeah.
When did I cut out?
Um, After the album justifies its length.
Yeah, I was just saying the album justifies its length, which is difficult to do, especially given that it's a hip hop album and there's more like words per minute or whatever. Um, but I think that it absolutely does. It justifies itself in a lot of ways. Um, we'll get to some parts that I think maybe could have been changed, but I don't really have very many complaints.
Lengthwise, it is
This
technically a triple LP. If you're counting an LP as being 40-ish minutes, this album comes out to just under an hour and 50 minutes. So a very, very long album, but it, in my opinion, justifies its length. Whenever I listen to this album, I'm never kind of like waiting for it to be over. That's not something that I ever experience. The album is has enough highlights all the way through the runtime, evenly dispersed throughout the runtime, with and such little filler that I enjoy the entire I think it's hour and 47 minute runtime.
I'll
Um,
admit I do
this
have yet to listen to this album all the way through in one sitting, but uh, I think that I could. I just haven't.
which is
I probably will
understandable.
at some point.
It's an exceptionally long project.
Mhm.
Um,
But
the
anyway,
third track, the third track on here, God Breathed, is probably the first like mainly religious track. There's a little bit less of Kanye West normal braggadociousness. Um, and it's a little bit more it's a little bit more religion oriented. It's a little bit more reminiscent of maybe something off of Jesus is King thematically. And if you're going through any sort of tough time, or if you are in any way able to listen to Christian lyrics in a way that is beneficial to you, like if you find listening to Christian lyrics in any way sort of like comforting to you, this is like, this is where the album really starts, right? Um, once I saw what the Lord do, God the Son all the glory, God the Father like Maury. Um, God will solve it all for me. Trust in God will heal you. Devil on my shoulders, I can't let him breathe. Angels start to tell me it's okay to not feel okay. A lot of lyrical highlights on this song that are overtly religious, but for me are the right type of religious, um, where they are able to scratch that itch of wanting to be comforted without um, without getting into too much into the realm of pretentiousness, or too much into the realm of wanting to roll your eyes. I think that it really is hip hop gospel. It's gospel music, but it's cool, um, and that makes it really easy to listen to. Fun fact: if we're going to touch on my own mental health a little bit, I personally have schizoaffective disorder, depressive type, and I was undiagnosed but already post psychotic break when this album came out. And there was a brief period of time where I believed that this song was about me. Um, and that makes it nowadays where I'm on medication, I'm a lot more grounded in reality. it makes it sort of like an awkward listen because the actual content of the song itself is scratches my personal itch perfectly. I think it's exactly the type of song that I want to listen to when I'm in any sort of melancholic or sad mood. But it's a little bit distressing when it's bringing up those memories of those times when I was suffering so much and I was so detached from reality. So I have a sort of complicated and interesting relationship with this song, but ultimately, now that I'm, on medication and I'm a lot more grounded, I'm able to sort of listen to this song for what it is, and it's able to do what it's supposed to do, which is to comfort people who are able to be comforted by religious music. So yeah, there's a little fun fact for y'all as far as my relationship with the song goes. The
Yeah.
fourth track, Off the Grid, uh, is one of the better sounding songs off the album for sure. You have this New York drill kind of theme, as well as a Playboy, both a Playboy Cardi and a 5EO4 feature, which is like having both of those people on the same song is such a unique idea, and it makes for a really, really interesting and unique song. It's also one of the more
Both
verbose
underplay
songs on the
unconscious.
album. Sorry? This is definitely one of the more verbose songs on the album, if you can't tell by the very long lyrics page here. But God, 5EO4 and Playboy Cardi absolutely kill it on this song, and Kanye West delivers one of his better rapping performances on this song as well. And the beat is just incredible. It's again striking that balance between religiosity and Kanye West's normal lyrics, and it's just ultimately just, in my opinion, an absolutely immaculate song. Hurricane, the fifth track off of the album, is a little bit, in my opinion, is a little bit overrated. I don't get the hype of why this is one
What?
of the far and away most popular songs on the album, but it is still a good song. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm saying I just don't get why it's so many people's like favorite song on the album, right? The Weeknd kind of does a normal Weeknd thing. Lil Baby, while it is one of his better performances that I've personally heard, is still kind of just doing his normal Lil Baby thing. Kanye West kind of does a pretty normal Kanye West theme. In my opinion, it's a good but not great performance from all three of the artists that are featured, all three of the main artists that are featured on this song.
I think
Um,
arguably the highlight is the choir featured on it with the way that it just suddenly cuts out after the
yeah,
"Don't let me down." It's like really uh, a great production choice, and this is one of my favorite songs on the album personally. I think
yeah, I
everyone
do
does a
like
good job. I think it's one of the best weekend features that I've
I
heard, at
do
least
like
personally.
I do like that production choice of the cutting off choir for sure. That is one of the better moments production wise on the album. Praise God, definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album. Um, Another track that leans more towards the religious side, um, than towards the typical hip hop lyrics side. Um, which is, part of the reason why I like it. I also really love Travis Scott's verse, with lines like, my God at the top, the devil my op. It just feels so genuinely Travis Scott, but also genuinely gospel at the same time. And I just love it as well.
I love the Baby Keem verse.
Yeah. I love the production on this
Jonah is
next
a
track, the
beautiful song.
seventh track, Jonah. Um,
It's a beautiful song.
I I love how towards the end of this song, the chorus by Vori is playing over and over again, and the production drops out so much that you can actually hear the sort of ambient room noise, as well as I think even a little bit of noise bleed from the monitors that Vori is wearing um, as the chorus is repeating. And there's absolutely zero illusion of Vori actually repeating the lyrics over and over again. It's very clearly just a recording that's being looped over and over. And I thought that was a really ballsy production choice, and it's a production choice that, in my opinion, actually works out, and the song is better for it. Lil Durk's verse is all right. Um, Um, Kanye West verse is all right, but really it's the production and Vori that steal the show for me on this song. What was that?
What?
I just heard a big boom come out from outside of my apartment.
Couldn't tell you.
Okay, okay, it's not okay. Oh no, okay, okay, I'm not okay. Um,
Thought you were
I'm not
talking
okay
about the
after that
song.
big boom. Um,
Oh no. Lil Yachty.
This is one of my favorite Lil Yachty verses ever. The Lil Yachty verse on this eighth track, okay, okay. Holy fucking shit. I feel like this was,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, maybe Lil Yachty sort of like, sort of starting to entering into the creative mode that he was in when he released his most recent critically acclaimed album. Because holy fucking shit, this verse is good. The humming that he does in the background is ominous and beautiful. His verse is hard as fuck, and I just love everything about Lil Yachty's appearance on this song. Kanye West is getting a little bit more into his
Mm-hmm.
typical hip hop lyric bag as opposed to the religiosity bag on this song. But it's all right for me because it doesn't go too far in that direction. It doesn't really take you out of the element of the album at all. And the song, of course, like pretty much every other song on Donda, sounds good. Next up for the ninth track, which only has us one third of the way through the album. If you're wondering why I'm speeding through these tracks so goddamn quickly, it's because we're on the ninth track and we're only a third of the way through the album. But this is actually far and away my least favorite song on the album. This is definitely
What?
getting because it gets for me, I really like this album as a gospel album, and this is the least gospel song on the album far and away. Jesus, the hell? This is the least gospel song on the album far and away. And this is actually, none of the non-gospel moments
The
on this
last
album.
lines are the last lines are kind of gospel-y.
Better find God before he find me. That's definitely way more on the hip hop side. Like, he tells, he's telling somebody, he's basically like intimidating somebody, which is very hip hop. Tell the devil good night, go to sleep is almost just like sort of like a lame excuse for like, one last little religious line to throw in. I for me, most of the non-religious lyrics on this album don't really take me out of the mood except for on this one song. This one song kind of takes me out of the mood of the album a little bit, and then it kind of has to recover on the following track, Believe What I Say. It's a gospel album. I like this album because it's a gospel album. So this like random, just pretty much not gospel at all track on the album it kind of fucks with me a bit, kind of takes me out of the element of the album a bit.
I just have to disagree because I dislike the song.
I mean, hey, that's all right.
Gospel song. I dislike the song. Junior watching I'll be on my
Chorus
yes.
isn't even catchy. It's not even
So
catchy.
good. I I think it's fishy.
Next up, we have the 10th track, Believe What I Say. Um, and this is getting back into the
Lauryn Hill
religious bag,
sample.
so it recovers the vibes for me. Um, and it's this is actually kind of a, isn't this? Yeah. This is don't let the lifestyle drag you down. This is like a little bit more of a classic Kanye sounding song. This is almost like the Bound 2 of Donda, I feel like. It doesn't have the chipmunked gospel vocals, but it does kind of have that sort of like more easygoing feel to it. I feel like Kanye's production and musical style has gotten a little bit darker over the years, and this does have that a little bit more lighthearted, easygoing sound to it, which I do appreciate. And of course, I appreciate it, again restoring the vibes after Junior. Um, 24. 24 is my favorite Kanye West song of all time. It's not only my favorite Kanye
Wow.
West song on this album, but it's my favorite Kanye West song of all time. I adore and love and venerate this song to fucking death. It is a purely religious song, which I appreciate. And it's just it's such an inspiring and reassuring more than anything song. This song came out post me getting shot in the head, post me having a psychotic break during a time where I had some extremely severe mental issues, pre me getting into a stable point in my life and recovering from getting shot in the head, just sort of at one of the darkest parts of my life. This song is just this song's main purpose is to reassure people who are going through difficult times. And I was going through a difficult time, and this song spoke to me just like in a really, really intense way. And to this day, it holds an incredibly special place in my heart because of it. I feel like to a certain level, you should be able to, when making determinations as far as your favorite album and favorite song goes, eschew how culturally relevant a song or album is and just be able to make those sorts of determinations based off of the relationship that you have with the song and the album. And for me personally, like, yeah, I understand that, yeah, like, whatever, Love, Lockdown, and what is it, fucking, Jesus Walks or whatever, iconic Kanye West songs, great. But just because they're iconic doesn't mean that they're going to hold a special place in my heart. I like those songs because everybody else put me onto them so hard that I came to see, why, their merits, and I came to understand why everybody likes them so much. But this is just one of those songs where, despite what anybody else may say, just in my own personal relationship with Kanye West music and my own personal relationship with this album, this song and its purpose just struck a chord like absolute lightning in a storm on Jupiter for me. Um, it's just absolutely magical for me. It just really holds a special place in my heart because when I first heard it, it was really reassuring, and then I started listening to it over and over again. There was periods where I would literally listen. I could become fixated on this song, and I would literally listen to this exact song and no other songs over and over again for like the better part of an hour, just playing this one song over and over again, just because it was so reassuring. It spoke to me so much. It's gonna be okay. God's not finished. Really, especially those two lines. being played over and over again. You know, you can imagine somebody who's reeling from a traumatic brain injury, their family is treating them poorly. You know, they're financially sort of in a precarious position, and everything is just looking super, super dark. They don't have very many quality relationships, and here comes along a song by, you know, one of that person's favorite artists where the two main lines of the song are it's gonna be okay, we're gonna be okay, and God's not finished. We're gonna be okay, God's not finished. It's gonna be okay, things are gonna get better. Things have not finished working out. This is not the end point. Things are going to continue to progress and evolve in your life, and it's going to progress in a positive way. That's the message of this song, and I needed it when it fucking dropped. And this song, oh my fucking God, far and away, favorite Kanye West song of all time. Um, if I were to make a top 10 songs of all time list, it would easily make the list. Goddamn, I love this fucking song.
I had to re-listen to it right now to remember what it was. So
That's valid. There are a
we had
lot of
very
tracks on this
opposite.
album.
Yeah. It's a very good one though. I like it a lot. And I'm glad to hear about how much you like it.
Please
Remote
don't
Control's
ask
a good one.
again.
Control.
Who's up in the van? They're my only fan. I love the fucking melody on this fucking track. What's it? I think it was the 12th track, Remote Control. It's such a creative and catchy ass melody. Like, holy shit. Like this melody honestly sounds kind of timeless to me. Like this album, you know, might not even be considered a classic album because of how much backlash there was to certain elements of it. But despite the fact that this album overall isn't a classic album, I almost feel like this specific melody is just timeless. Like that's a
I
timeless
think that
ass fucking melody.
there's people that this album is classic too. I think it has a chance to go down as a classic.
Yeah, it does have a chance to go down as a classic for sure. And I was just acknowledging that there's a lot of people who would um there is a certain subset of the hip hop fan population that would immediately scoff at the idea of anything off of Donda being timeless. Um,
Yeah.
because you know they just kind of hate Kanye West and hate the album so much. Oh shit. I think I might have just fucked up my Oh wow. Oops. I was just playing around with my calm flare tip and completely deformed it. Oops. My bad. Yikes.
Whoops.
Oopsies.
Whoopsies.
Oopsies.
Yep.
Never mind. I deformed an older one that was just laying around on my desk. I still have my main ones. Okay, cool. Anyway, back to the podcast. Speaking of back to Kanye West. Yeah, there's a lot of people who just kind of hate Kanye West and they hate this album and they would just like immediately just like consider it ridiculous to say that anything off of this album is timeless. But this melody, even only 3 years later, is all two and a half or 2.5 years later, is for me personally already identifiable as a timeless melody. Please don't ask again. Who's up in the van? They're my only fan. Like that, like it's so catchy. It's so cute. I just love this fucking melody on this song so fucking much. Um, and I also love the idea of God, you know, having sort of like a bird's eye view and having life itself on remote control and being able to see all and you know having being able to trust in that higher power because it has this infinite wisdom and infinite perspective because it's able to essentially engage in any perspective it wants to at any point in the universe. Um, when something that has that level of perspective is telling you it's gonna be okay, you better fucking believe it's gonna be okay, right? So I also love that sentiment of God having it on remote control like a CEO. The 13th song, Moon, another beautiful ass song.
Beautiful song. Yeah,
Um, isn't this the last Kid Cudi Kanye West collab? I believe it is.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah, and Kid
it's a good
Cudi
one.
kills it on this song. Um, yeah, Kid Cudi and Don Toliver just fucking kill it on this song. And is Kanye West on this song? I can't seem to remember.
That is a good. I
Yes, he is
would
on this
say he
song,
is.
but just kind of very sparsely during the third bit. He is kind of blending in with Don Toliver and Kid Cudi during the third portion of the song. So Kanye West isn't on this song much at all, but he doesn't have to be. It's still a great freaking song for me, because mainly because of its sound. It just sounds beautiful. Um, Going on to the
Heaven and
14th
Hell is
track
a
here.
highlight to me.
Yes, I agree. Let it grrr, let it grrr, grrr, grrr. I love,
Reminds
I
me of
love
Feel
that.
the Love off of Kids See Ghosts. Have you listened to
Yeah,
Kids See
yeah,
Ghosts? Yeah.
yes, I have.
Um,
We're probably gonna do that at some point.
mhm. Yeah, I don't know
Um,
what to say. I like. We should probably go into kind of speed around here. Speed
yeah,
running.
we are just barely stepping over the halfway mark as far as this album goes. Luckily, the last four songs are remixes, so we won't have to spend too
Yeah.
long on those. Um,
Hmm.
we technically only have, let's see, 27 minus 4 is 23, minus 14. We technically only have nine original songs left. Actually, this next one is a skit, so eight. But coming in at number 15 here, Donda. Um, I have to say, this is one of the more distasteful sort of tracks on this album. This is why, despite this
Really?
album, this is part of the reason why, despite this, um, mm, never mind. I'm not going to finish the sentence I was about to say. But anyway, getting back to my original point, this is one of the more distasteful tracks off the album, because Kanye West brings up he includes a snippet of his mother speaking, and it pretty much has nothing to do with actually showcasing anything about his mother, and instead it's just about his mother talking about how amazing Kanye is, which is just it's distasteful for me. If you're gonna name an album after your late mom, and you're gonna include a track that's devoted to your mom speaking, why not have it be something that is going to sort of display the brilliance of your mother? Why have it literally just being about why play into just like the most stereotypical Kanye West NPD behavior and make something that could have been a really, really beautiful tribute to your mother all about you? Yeah, I don't, I mean, it's not a terrible sort of listen, but it's not very tastefully done in my opinion because of the choice of snippet that Kanye West chose, you know, of his mother speaking. It's literally just her praising him. Um, I
It
don't care
personally doesn't bother
too
me.
much for that one. I mean, that's valid. Like I said, it doesn't ruin the song for me either. Like it just kind of, you know, it like the song sounds all right, and Donda does say some other things in the song, like a couple other things besides just talking about her son. So like it's not, you know, it doesn't completely ruin the track for me. But it's the distasteful nature of choosing something that's all about Kanye West does make it definitely, you know, far from one of the highlights for me. I'll say that. Um, Keep My Spirit Alive is for me like Moon, just a track that it just sounds fucking beautiful. Just sounds fucking great. And it's also as a plus, um, you know, like with the exception of this West Side Gun verse, which is not really that bad at all. Just it's an exception to the general rule that it's a little bit more of a slightly religious leaning song on the album. And there's some other moments on this song that aren't too that aren't necessarily too religious, but you know, shit. It's overall slightly religious leaning, and I like it because of that. And it also does, even the non-religious aspects of the track pretty well done. And I did not realize that that was a Royce da 5'9" verse. The We Walk in God's Spiritual Ordinance. Interesting. Royce da 5'9" on a Kanye West album. Who'd have thunk
Did
it?
not know that either. I really like this track. Keep My Spirit Alive. I think that uh, it has uh, like aspects of that I think are touched on in other songs of like redemption through faith and people's conditions like influencing their behavior. Uh, and with like the West Side Gun verse talking about thanking God that he was that like his gun worked. Uh, and uh, but I think that it's a very good song. It's very beautiful sentiment, and I think that it's delivered well, as you said.
This next track on here, Jesus Lord, absolutely a highlight,
At
and
least that's my interpretation.
it includes probably one of the single best verses of Kanye West's career. I don't know. Yeah, here we go. I was about to say I don't know if Kanye West actually wrote the verse. Um, yeah, and apparently a rapper named Ruga likely wrote at least part of it. Um, but yeah, Kanye West's performance on this album is just fucking insane. The story he tells about this family that falls apart because of the struggle and how it ends with the oldest sibling of the family, you know, killing somebody in revenge for you know, causing all of the suffering or taking an action that, you know, led to all of the suffering. It's just it's really really powerful. And it really has an emotional impact on me every single time that I hear it. And Jay Electronica's verse is also pretty good as well. As far as the Larry Hoover Jr. outro, I'm not sure exactly what Larry Hoover Sr. did or what kind of person he is, so I don't know if he should be released from prison. But I do know that 23 and 1 Supermax prisons are absolutely inhumane and should be done away with. So the fact that Larry Hoover Sr. is in a 23-1 prison, um, you know, kind of makes me want to be in Larry Hoover Jr.'s corner a bit, just automatically, just based off of that one detail. But yeah, the song ends with Larry Hoover Jr. You know, talking about uh, how, you know, his father is, according to him, you know, a much better person than he has been made out to be within the court system, and you know, doesn't deserve to be in prison. And thanking Kanye West for taking the fight to the Oval Office, which I think would have been taking the fight to Donald Trump at this juncture. Um, I mean, Joe Biden was president by the time this album was released, but I think that the fight, the quote unquote fight, happened when Donald Trump was still president. And you know, Larry Hoover Jr. is thanking Kanye West for those efforts. And are those efforts justified? I can't speak to that. I don't know anything about Larry Hoover Sr. But you know, 23-1 Supermax prison, obviously very inhumane, which just automatically makes me want to lean a little bit towards sympathizing with this person, just right off the bat.
Mhm. I think it's regardless a very powerful outro and contains a lot of powerful, memorable lines and moments. Uh, One of my only criticisms of this album is "Oh Jesus Lord," the remix, longer version could have just that's on the album. Uh,
You broke up a bit. You broke up after one of my criticisms of this album. We didn't really hear much after that.
yeah, I just think that Jesus Lord Part Two could basically have taken the place of Jesus Lord, the original on this album. Um,
Okay.
from what I remember, unless I don't remember if that takes out the J Electronica verse or not, but I remember feeling that way that you could have just kept the G. No, it keeps the J Electronica verse. So
Yeah,
I think you could have just kept the second part as the only version on the album.
I agree.
But uh, to
Oh God, you're breaking up
emphasize,
again.
so it makes sense.
We didn't really hear anything after I said I agree.
Oh, all that I was saying is that they the reason might have been to emphasize the song again, just to put more emphasis on the song as a core part of the album, and the Larry Hoover Jr. speech, like repeating that twice. So I think that it makes sense. So I don't really think it was a bad decision that much to have it twice. It was just something that I thought, I guess, they could have.
Yeah.
New
Um,
Again
New Again,
has one of the more memorable openings to me. The
yeah,
the
yeah, for sure.
hey, the hi with a bunch of eyes or hey with a bunch of eyes.
I'm simply high off life for the 100th time.
I think that this one is at least seems to be at least partially about Kim Kardashian. Um, it seems like some of the lyrics seem to be in reference to that. Uh,
Yeah, I agree.
uh,
And
to the album,
another,
I thought that, but it doesn't ruin the song for me that he makes reference to it, even though I do personally have kind of a distaste for some of the ways that he handled things after the breakup, but I don't want to talk too much shit because I don't know.
he also uses the same production technique as far as just stripping away all the instrumentation and you know, looping a line that has audible studio noise, as well as again some leakage from the studio monitors. Not, no, not leakage from the studio monitors, but still audible studio noise. Um, this "Make Me New Again, Make Me New Again." If you listen to it in the actual song, you can just very clearly hear that it's a loop. There's zero illusion of, any choir actually singing "Make Me New Again" over and over again for at least part of the outro. So yeah, very interesting technique in my opinion. Ballsy thing to do, and it works out again on this song. Television featuring Pop Smoke. A lot of people really don't like this album. Or sorry, not this album. A
This
lot of people
song.
really don't like this song. But I think it's all right. It's all right. It's obviously not one of the best songs on the album, but I really, really like the stampeding sort of low register piano that underscores the production. And while I wish the vocal clarity to Pop Smoke's vocals was, a little bit clearer, um, while I wish Pop Smoke's vocals were a little bit clearer, I think that ultimately it comes together into something that's listenable and something that adds to the track list.
Yeah, I like this song overall.
This next track, the 20th track, "Lord, I Need You," is definitely talking a lot about Kim Kardashian. But for me, again, it doesn't really ruin the song for me, even though I also have distaste for how he handled that situation. Definitely a sort of like Junya, one of the less uh, uh, overtly religious songs on the album, but it is still a little bit more religious than Junya with the "Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me and tell me everything's gonna be all right." Um, so yeah, it still kind of blends in with the rest of the track list for me personally. Coming up next, we have the 21st
Pure
track,
Souls.
"Pure Souls."
I like Pure Souls. Good Rich verse
Hmm.
feature in general. I think he might have more than a verse, but he does very good.
Kanye West says, "I was one of them weirdos of the pure soul." I don't believe Kanye West has a pure soul, but um, maybe he's saying that he was of the pure souls in the music genre. Um, and I also do not believe Kanye West can give $1 to every person on earth. I think he's, oh, Kanye West officially, he's reportedly worth 6.6 billion, which is more than I thought he was worth. But still can't give $1 to all 8 billion people. Not quite, Kanye. Um, the truth, the only thing you get away with. The truth, the only thing you get away with. I really, really do like that refrain, actually. The truth is ultimately the only thing you'll ever be able to get away with, in most cases. And now we have the last two tracks on the album, "Come to Life" and "No Child Left Behind,"
Come to
which
Life is
are,
beautiful. I like Come
yeah,
to
yeah,
Life a lot.
beautiful songs. These are another two songs that are kind of in the same vein as Moon, where they're just very, very well produced. They just sound fucking great. They're just amazing sounding songs. Now we get into the last four tracks, which are the remixes.
Can't hear you.
We
Okay,
have
there.
"Jail Part 2," which is probably my favorite of the remixes.
Baby.
You have backing vocals from, and yeah, backing vocals from Marilyn Manson here, which of course tickles my fancy as a huge Marilyn Manson fan. And then you have one of the best performances of DaBaby's entire career, frankly. You can make an argument the best rapping performance of DaBaby's entire career, where he's defending himself in the wake of his controversy. You know, say what you want about how well he actually defends himself, but the performance, he raps his fucking ass off on this song. The performance is just incredible.
Mhm.
Then we have OK OK Part 2, which I am down for the super savage lyrics from the female feature on this song. Her name is Shensia. I have not heard of her before. But I love lyrics such as where is it? Where is it? You broke up with your ex, still in love, so you're single. Me broke up with me ex, him dead to me, I'm a widow. I love that shit so much. Love that sentiment. Love the sentiment of allowing yourself to truly move on from somebody who's wronged you rather than continually making excuses for them or allowing yourself to self-sabotage based off of some skewed perspective of what happened. I'm all for recognizing when it is not 50-50 and when somebody has been an abuser in a relationship. I really, really like the general sentiment of this verse, and it really did resonate with me when I first heard it. Junior Part 2 kind of have the same complaint as the original Junior. It's the least religious song on the album, and it does kind of take me out of the vibe of the album a little bit. Um, but you know, I guess we always
Dollar sign.
appreciate a Ty Dolla Sign feature.
Yeah. And then finally, Jesus Lord Part 2, which we kind of touched
Yes,
on a little bit before, but uh, I think is just an improvement over the original, even though it's longer. I just like the
the Locks
I just
verse,
like what's added.
the Locks verses, the Locks verse, Locks verses. Yeah, they add a lot to the song, and they make the song better. Jail Part 2, I can
Mhm.
understand why that's not the main jail because it has Marilyn Manson and DaBaby on it. Okay, okay, Part 2, I can, you know, not as bad as Jail, but I can still understand what with some of the lyrics why it's not the original Okay, okay. Uh, Junior Part 2, honestly, Junior Part 2 could have also replaced Junior in my opinion. But then Jesus is Lord Part 2 could have definitely replaced the original Jesus is Lord for me. Jesus is Lord for me. But yeah, that
Oh
is
yeah,
the
we never talked
entire.
about remote control has a we never talked about remote control has a Glob Go Gab Galab sample.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, not Jesus.
That's funny.
Remote control. Yeah, that was classic. That was such
Yeah,
an
excuse me.
iconic moment. I remember when that happened. I didn't listen to the album, but I just knew that that happened. Not at the I didn't listen
Yeah.
to it at the time. I've listened to it since, obviously. But anyway, back to what you were saying.
So that's all 27 tracks of the album, and it's an incredible album for me. It's like a strong 8 to a light 9 as far as ratings go. It's my favorite Kanye West album. Probably overall my favorite gospel album of all time, one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time. Um, and yeah, just shout out Donda.
Yeah, rest in peace
Fantastically
to his
produced, a
mom,
lot of
Yolanda.
highlights, very long, and somehow manages to not be grating or annoying despite its length. Like, hell yeah, Big Donda,
Yeah,
great ass fucking album.
yeah.
All right, well, that concludes today's episode of the Music Nook. Join us next week for episode 5, where it is going to be Jaden's turn. And Jaden, do you know what our album is going to be next week?
Yes, there's one I've been holding on to for a while. I'm going to do an album called My Teenage Dream Ended by Farrah Abraham.
Awesome.
Yep. Are you familiar with this album?
No.
Okay. There's a lore to it, but I think you should probably. I'm curious to see what you will think about it listening to it blind without the knowledge of the lore.
Word.
Yep. And there are two editions on Spotify. Make sure you listen to the right one. Uh, the one that came out
Um,
earlier is the one you should listen to.
I
Oh wait, but
listen.
you're
I
using Apple Music, right?
I use YouTube Music, and there's only one
YouTube
version,
Music.
and it
That's
came
right.
out in 2012. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. With 10.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.
Thank